Welcome to the Harnessing Happiness podcast. Upbeat vibes generated and transferred to you. Now here's your host, Sarah J Naylor.
Hello and welcome to Harnessing Happiness with myself, Sarah J Naylor. I'll start, as always, by saying thank you so much for tuning in and joining me. I really love knowing that you download and listen to this all over the globe. I was actually counting the pins in my pin board the other day, and there are over 100 different countries where you are all listening, which is absolutely awesome. So today I have got the lovely Charlotte with me, but I'm going to hand over to her to introduce, as you know I do, because I think my guests are far better placed to introduce themselves because they know so much more about themselves than I do. So over to you, Charlotte. Please do take the floor and introduce yourself to my fabulous listeners.
Oh, thank you so much, Sarah. Thank you so much for letting me come here and having me on the show. I'm really excited. Yes, so I'm Charlott McAnsh. I run Sina Bounds with my husband, and we also have a franchise in Bristol with the lovely team of Diana and Tieran. Yeah, Sina Bounds is an online business community with a business directory. And in our spare time, as you would know, we are adventurers and we love to sort of take the outside and do a lot of climbing and a lot of outdoors and gardening and so on. So that's just a little bit about me in a nutshell.
And yes, I mean, there is something I really want to touch on in a bit with what you've been on some amazing adventure. But I'm kind of keen to have you share your sort of the backstory. Actually, I really want to bring in what you've been doing, because it is actually quite remarkable on the back of obviously where you're at and how the business evolved and things like that, because it's really testament to both of you what you actually do. So can you sort of share what Sina Bounds is about and what it is and how it all evolved? Because, you know, obviously your journey with your husband, and yeah, it's quite a fascinating one, and it's very empowering and very inspiring.
Yeah, of course. And I love to share the story because I think it's just about sort of knowing that when you do fall down, you can always get back up. And that's always been our motto. So actually, the story kind of starts in 2014. I wasn't with Jamie then, but he basically went to bed perfectly normal and then woke up paralysed from the waist down. And I do want to mention to people that this is not something that happens to a lot of people. It's a very rare sort of thing to happen. But yes, it does happen. But what I didn't know when I first met Jamie, if you Googled becoming disabled overnight or I become disabled, what should I do? There's actually nothing out there to find out anything apart from where you can get grants or where you can get, you know, financial support, which is all very great, but it's no information at all, if that was to happen to anyone to become disabled, of where to sort of get other support or where to find like-minded people, which kind of shocked me in a way, but I've never had to Google it before. And I'm sure other people have been in situations where they go, where should I turn to? And this was the reason for why he set up Sina Bounds as part of sort of a community and a disabled community to find other people that had to adapt and diversify after perhaps becoming disabled or being disabled. And that then sort of went on to become a drop shipping company. So Jamie McAnsh is a motivational speaker, and he's also an ambassador for some of the products that we used to sell. So it was very much a platform for blogging, podcasts, aids to help people do what they like to do, in regardless to what their circumstances are. And that very much involved until 2019 when I joined the company. It was going really well. 2020 happened, and obviously we had some storms where we are around the country. And we're based in South Wales, and it was quite bad here, and we didn't have any stock to sort of get into the country. So the problems started occurring, and then, as we know, 2020 March happened, and the world as we knew it kind of stopped. So it was a bit of a shock. But you know what? You know, like I said, when you fall down, you've got to get back up. And I'm sure lots of listeners will have fallen down at some point, and they will know, you know, there's so many stories. I mean, everyone's got a story, and you've got to get back up. So we did exactly that. I'm not going to say it was super easy in the beginning, but we realized there was a massive need for everyone to kind of get involved and support each other. And our knowledge is all about business and how to support businesses. One of the things was as well, I think the whole world kind of became disabled in 2020. We didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
We were sat in our little boxes. We didn't know how to connect, you know. yes, we knew how to do online meetings, but it wasn't huge and everyone was a bit lost. And this is obviously something that Jamie had a lot of
Yes.
experience in. And from there, we grew the business community and decided to open up, a platform that was for everyone. So we started a business directory. Invited businesses that needed help at that time. So we had 40 sort of members that came on board, and that then grew really quickly to 250 members. And we're now a year and a half later.
Wow.
Yeah, it was amazing. It just shown that there was a massive kind of need for that collaboration to happen between people.
How many people have you got now?
2,500 members now.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
It is amazing. And I think what we have seen is that people really need that collaboration. And I think what's positive that's come out of the pandemic is the fact that people helping each other in a much better way.
No, absolutely. I think collaboration is key. It's, helping each other, supporting each other, celebrating and cheering each other along. And that is something, as you say, it really has come out of the whole of lockdown, because it did, like you've spoken about your business, my business was just like suddenly everything that I was doing suddenly ceased. So I decided the bottle of wine wasn't the solution, and had to pivot like mad. And sort of you start to adapt. It makes you more creative because you get so used to doing things in one way. But I'm really fascinated because obviously the business started out because of the situation that Jamie had found himself in, and yet it's evolved to incorporate and support people who aren't disabled now as well. But actually, like you've said, almost like became disabled because of the pandemic. Suddenly all the ways of them doing things stopped, but because he'd already learnt to be more creative because of the situation he'd found himself in, which I'm curious about. Are you able to share a little bit more about what it was and how he is now, just so that we can give a little bit of story as to how he is right now?
Yeah, sure. So 2014 was a really difficult year for him. It was, when, like I said, there was no one to turn to, but he set up Bounds and started that as a blogging and podcasting, and utilized it to do crazy challenges all the way through 2015, which involved things like walking Penny Van in a wheelchair and on his hands, the What 4 challenge.
Wow.
He cycled 100 miles. There was lots and lots of charity work involved. So he raised just over £250,000 for charity or for different charities.
Wow.
And then went on to, it was an incredible year and an incredible sort of determination to do something good out of everything that happened. And he turned to sport as well after a suicide attempt. And that was the one thing that really sort of made him get back up and find himself again. And it was after having done all the challenges that then led to winning the Charles Holland Award, which is a spin-off of the Pride of Britain Award, then led to sort of inspirational talks and so on. But it was in the bottom of his heart was always the fact of running that community and helping other people that had to adapt and diversify. And whether that's people that run businesses or people that are just people, it's kind of everybody needs that connection. And I think that is what is so unique with what we offer with Bounds, is that you have those connecting sort of opportunities, because it is an interactive website. So it's not a sort of social media, but it's interactive. So you can have your membership and you can become a member and you can interact with other people without the sort of algorithms and things like that. It's just sort of more business to business, and just ask people for advice and help each other. And that's what it's all about.
That's fabulous.
Yeah, it's just a really lovely way to feel safe. Yes, I'm sure you are aware, you run your own businesses as well. And it can be really lonely sometimes. So your networks and that support and the connections that you make are so super important, as I'm sure you would agree on.
Absolutely. Yes, and it's quite interesting you should say that, because I was employed for many, 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 many years. And because I did a good job, I had regular sort of clients and things like that. I never really sort of needed or felt the need to sort of do networking, but sort of fast forward and getting divorced and ending up setting up a business on my own. And then sort of really sort of giving it a push. I don't know, when was it? About I lose track of the days, Charlotte, days and years. And I have to work out what year we're in now. It's 2022. So I think go back about 7 years. So that's 2015. And then I sort of started to embark on sort of joining networking groups myself. And it's amazing how the contacts that I've made there that have become long-term friends. And as you say, as a small business, to actually have that network, to have people to open your mind, to connect with different people. It's invaluable, isn't it? And the fact that you're offering that, and you know, it's across the board, and you've created that safe space is really quite phenomenal. So had you known Jamie at this point, or when did you meet? And of course, I think the listeners might have detected a bit of an accent. You're not native South Wales, are you?
No, no, I'm not. I moved to London 91, and I'm originally from Sweden. And then I opened my first business in South Wales in 2006, which was a gastro sort of restaurant pub. So yeah, I'm
nice.
Originally from Sweden, but have lived in the UK for I think it's nearly 30 years now. So yeah, I actually met Jamie in 2019, and it was quite an interesting one because we met online. Both quite nervous, I think. He's a very sort of extrovert, if you like, but we were both a bit nervous about meeting up on a date. I'm useless with dates, I'm not going to lie. I've always have been.
I know. Me too, Charlotte. It's all too stressful. Going out on dates, far too stressful.
But yeah, we decided that we liked each other. But I thought he was a little bit cocky, which if people meet him might agree with. He thought I was a little bit bossy. So that was the first date over and done with. And then we decided to meet up the following Friday, just as friends. Yeah, that led to him kind of moving in the week after, and then we didn't sort of separate. But one of the things that Jamie really kind of taught, it's quite a funny story. But yeah, one of the things he really taught me was about letting go of the past and things like that, and get back up, as I mentioned before. Because at the time I was working for an online internet company. I was traveling all over the world and kind of felt like I wasn't getting sort of valued. And I know that your podcast is all about the happiness of things, and it's about how you can get yourself out of a situation like that. And Jamie gave me a book called Made It Through the Rain from a lady who I got to know really well, Beverly Jones. And it was reading that book that made me realize that I was actually very close to burnout. 2 weeks later, I decided to leave my job. I then went into the business with Jamie. So it was all kind of happening. And yes, because I've always been in a really sort of strong character and so on. So it was quite an opener for me to realize that, you know, I was holding on to a lot of things. And I think sometimes we just need to let go of that. And I think that was a really important message about kind of getting back on your feet again.
Yeah, it's tough sometimes to let go because you're so used to the pattern of what you've been doing that supports you. And yet actually when you do let go, when I say let go, and I'm sure you'll agree with me, it's not a case of letting go and then just sort of plonking yourself down in the front of the television and hoping something will happen, but letting go of what's been familiar, because when you do, it frees up that time to then be doing other things and everything sort of falls into place. Because I'm going through quite a lot of that on a personal level myself because of the current climate we're in, the business that I've been in since 1987, you know, and I've got my own business. It's been really impacted by everything from Brexit to COVID to this, that and the other. And actually I'm really sort of promoting and doing a lot more on the coaching side and obviously my podcast and things like that. But actually letting go of something that's been familiar, that's kept me through sort of being a main breadwinner and supporting my son and single parenting and things like that, letting go, it's just like but it's very liberating at the same time.
It gives you just a little bit, but like you said, you can't just sit back on the sofa and kind of say, oh, I'm going to let things go. You've got to go out and want it as well.
Absolutely. So what's your involvement, you know, obviously in the business now? What do you do? Because obviously if you were running on burnout, and you've got to be careful that doesn't happen again, even when you're passionate about doing something. But what do you do now in the business?
I am a complete workaholic, and I'm not going to lie, and I have to stop myself from working, but I also love what I do. I have been very close to that, and I realize that, and I've seen so many business entrepreneurs go through that. So what I do in the business now is actually support the people, so support the members to be able to connect. So Jamie is sort of our face forward, if you like, and I look after the customers as they become members. We do a lot of live shows. We do a lot of podcasts. So I've actually got a live show after this today, but it's about giving the businesses what they need. So it's whether that's exposure via live video and get their message out there, or if it's in a podcast, if it's just to find more connections, or it could be sort of business advice as well. So it's both for sort of startup and scale up businesses that would like to look for more connections, get exposure, get visibility in that way, and be able to get the business support that's right for them at that time. Because I think we all go through a journey in business which is different, and that's my experience and background is in business and setting up and scaling up businesses. So that's where I come in and can give that support and connect people with the right people that they can trust and move forward.
You speak to and get to know all of your members, don't you? So you know who you're sort of connecting with each other, from what I understand. And I know just on the conversation that we had, because do you know what? It's interesting, all the synchronicities, because I love synchronicities, and obviously how you've met and where you've met and what you've done. And I've just actually recorded a podcast with a friend of mine who we met because we both entered a bread competition, and we met in Italy by the side of a pool overlooking the wine region because we entered this competition, and we met, and we've been friends for 20 years. And I just think it's fascinating how you do meet people, but it's getting to know people, it's having that synchronicity. But I can't remember how we were introduced, but then you introduced me to Nathan from Mental Health Monster, and I've subsequently had a chat with him and written an article for his website to help his members on his website. So it's just lovely. It's the power of sort of connection and collaboration. Like, we opened up and we said right at the very beginning, so you've got all this going on, you've created something that's just obviously grown and then evolved through lockdown, and you're sort of bringing people together, which ultimately, when you're doing that, you're making people happier, which is all about happiness. Yes.
I think it's time to sort of have that happiness regardless of where you are, and we're not restricted anymore to where we're not restricted to country, we're not restricted, we can connect with anyone. And I guess that what we realized, both Jamie and I, we have both massive a love for people and love for business, but also we have got a black contact book, if you like, and we have that experience of being able to connect people, and that's what people can benefit from. And I absolutely love that. And I know that when we spoke as well, you introduced us to a person that you met through networking, who we then spoke to as we were taking on our adventure to climb Everest Base Camp, and we had a chat with him literally the Saturday before we left. So that was very much thanks to you. So that's how the world
so you met Andy.
Go around. I met Andy. Yeah, he's fantastic, and we're looking forward to having a chat with him again soon.
Oh, brilliant! And that brings me neatly round to talking about, obviously Jamie is still doing his adventures, as are you with him too. And yes, do tell everybody about your most recent adventure. And I do want to know. So how is Jamie physically now? Because obviously you opened by saying he was, he woke up one morning to find he was completely paralysed from the waist down. How much movement does he have within his body these days?
It depends on the day. He's got complex regional pain syndrome, which is a shorten of CRPS. So it affects the body in very different ways. It depends if it's a good day, a bad day, but he can walk on crutches. So it's been a sort of 8-year-long rehabilitation process. He started walking properly about 4 years ago. So he uses a wheelchair as well, and he plays wheelchair basketball and various sports, but he can walk on crutches. So his aim when he fell ill and he first saw his physio, she said, "You've got to have a goal, Jamie." And he was like, "I got my goal. I'm climbing Everest." And she kind of laughed and went, "Yeah, sure. We just get you standing for that." So this has been his sort of, it was his goal since he was 7 years old. When he fell ill, he thought, why did I not do it before? Like so many of us have these amazing goals, and we kind of go, oh yeah, one day I'm going to do this. Or when I retire, I'm going to do this.
Yes.
So actually do them. When you get a chance to do something, go for it. And I think that's really important message to give to people out there as well. Because yes, I'm not hoping that anyone will ever become paralysed, but sometimes we just kind of wait and we don't take the opportunities. And I think life is all about opportunity and taking the chance when you can to be able to, just grow. And sometimes it might not seem possible at the time, but if you really want something, you can do it and you can make it happen. And that's a message that I like to give, because I think it's really, really important. And especially after what we've been through as well, just go for it and do it.
No, I think that's great advice, Charlotte. Absolutely, because there's always this tomorrow, but actually it's seizing the moment and living in the moment and being in the moment. Every time you say, "Well, I'll do it tomorrow," I mean, obviously there are things that you do sometimes have to take into consideration, for instance, when obviously COVID hit, my plans A, B, C and D all flew out the window. So there are certain things that do restrict you, but absolutely, I totally wholeheartedly support that. So yes, do share your adventure that's not long since you've been back on. So you've actually been to Everest Base Camp, haven't you?
Yes, we have. And that came about. So Jamie and I'd been going out, I think, about 3 months. And we were all sat in my kitchen. It was my birthday and we were going out. And he said, right, if I were to book Everest Base Camp, Charlotte, would you come with me? And like I said, I kind of like to go for opportunities. So I went, yeah, of course I will. Next day I thought, oh gosh, am I going to have to sort of use crampons? Am I going to have, what does it actually involve? And then I started sort of thinking, but I was so excited. So yeah, it was cancelled a couple of years because obviously we went through the pandemic. But yeah, in May this year, we set off. So we started the journey on the 5th of May. We were in a bit of a slower group. It was a private group because of Jamie's condition. So we didn't know how altitude was going to affect his body and that sort of thing. But I'm quite happy that we were in a slow group. And you know what? If you want to do it, you can do it. If you just go slow and steady. It was such an incredible adventure. But the one thing for me was about the people out there and about the community. They have so little and yet they give so much. And that's just an incredible experience. Jamie actually ended up having a spasm on the way down, and we were invited to this lady's kitchen, and the whole village got involved and kind of made it a really lovely sort of, being able to get back up and continue. But everyone got involved and they, sitting there giving us tea and biscuits and, all that kind of thing. And that for me was such a lovely opener to kind of, I've traveled a lot, but it was the community out there that really struck it for me. And the guides that we had were absolutely incredible. So, yeah, a really, really incredible experience all around.
Oh, wow. You're very brave because Andy, our now mutual friend, did show me some of the pictures. And before he went, and obviously after he's been, I'm like, oh, my word, that plane goes into such a small runway with a very, very big piece of mountain in front of it. And you go, oh, my word. That in itself, it's like, it makes my legs go, oh my gosh. And then you've got obviously the walk in itself. What an achievement. So I'm just curious because I'm mindful sort of time wise, but because obviously we could talk for ages. But as you said, I know you're off because you're so busy. You've got lots of other things to schedule in and fit in and one thing and another. So, you've already mentioned about sort of seizing the moment, taking opportunities. But what would your top tips for happiness be to people? Because obviously you and Jamie himself, I mean, what would he say? What tips what can you leave the listeners with in terms of top tips for sort of harnessing happiness in their life?
Yeah, my top tips for happiness would be to do what you want to do, to be yourself, to be able to do. I think so many times we do other things to please other people. And I think it's really, really important to just do what you really want to do and take control of that, because at the end of the day, that's your life. And I know so many people sometimes get stuck in unhealthy relationships or other things that might not be what you really want. And I think it's really, really important to sort of take charge of that, because we kind of only get one opportunity. So, yeah, do what you want to do and take control.
I love that. I absolutely love that. And I totally and wholeheartedly agree. So, thank you so much, Charlotte, for coming on and sharing your insight and what you do and what Jamie does and what you've done and what you've achieved. It's absolutely awesome. So how do people get in touch with you?
We are everywhere. You can't miss us, and do get in touch because we love to talk. The magic is always in the one-to-ones, as we would say. So you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, hook me up on LinkedIn, Charlott McAnsh, McAnsh. And yes, you can find us pretty much everywhere. And if you want to get in touch, I would love to talk to you.
That's fabulous. And it's C No Bounds, so SEE No NO Bounds, BOUNDS, isn't it?
It is indeed, yeah.
Oh, thank you so much, Charlotte. Thank you so much for listening. And I hope you've all enjoyed this episode with Charlotte as much as I have. And obviously, if you've enjoyed it, please do rate and review, follow and subscribe, whatever it is you do on your platform. And thank you as always, so this has been Sarah J Naylor. I mustn't forget my J at Harnessing Happiness. Wishing you a wonderful rest of the day, week, month, year, whatever it is you're doing. And until next time, thanks and lots of love from me.
Thanks for listening to the Harnessing Happiness podcast with Sarah J Naylor. If you took value from the content, please follow the show on your podcast app. And to find out more about Sarah's ape mindset, visit sarahjnaylor.com. That's sarahjnaylor.com.